They're about 60.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being on here on time, and welcome to our opportunity to discuss a movie that we in Sam Houston Area Council believe, and several other council believe, will make a material difference in the way in which we recruit into a number of communities that we serve. My name is Lionel Jellins, and I'm Vice Chair of Membership for Sam Houston Area Council. I also serve on the Southern Region Board, and my most important and enjoyable job is I'm a Scoutmaster. So, about 2 years ago, we began a journey once we discovered a film by the name of Troop 491, The Adventures of Muddy Lions, and we were just absolutely impressed with what this movie could do in our council with regard to assisting us in reaching parts of our community that are currently underserved. And what we're going to talk about today is how you can take this movie and do something in your councils, how it can connect that bridge between those parts of your community that are islands of non-scouting and connect with those youth who live a different life in many ways than those scouts that we're traditionally used to serving. When you finish today, I want you to at least know we've got the movie. It's a great movie. It's fun to watch. There are materials that are provided by council that you can easily access, and I'll show you where to access those materials, and we'll provide you pieces of materials added. And also you'll understand a number of techniques that people and councils around the country have used with this film, and you'll hear some really unique success stories with regards to this film. And then you'll get to actually talk to a few of the people, both the producer of the film and several folks involved in our community and working with it. So that's what we're going to achieve today. But before we get into the details of it, let's watch the trailer for the movie so you know what we're talking about.
Chances and consequences. The decisions that you make or don't make, they're gonna affect your future.
Hey, yo, T-Mac, get in, bro. Step up, don't be scared. Pass that.
We want to thank Troop 491 for serving as ushers this morning and give honor to God for these young men who want to spend their time being constructive. Far too many of our young people are out there doing the wrong thing, out there on the streets, committing crimes and doing drugs.
What you doing back there?
I'm gonna sign you up for the Scouts.
I don't want to be no stupid scout.
Welcome to Troop 491's annual open house.
Attention.
Scouts, that's a good thing, right? Why are you thinking about quitting?
Bulldog Patrol. Screaming Eagles. I'm just trying to keep my reputation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can dig it. Did they see your face?
Yeah,
What did your mom say?
I didn't tell her.
I'm inquiring about a murder that took place at the basketball court a few weeks ago. You know anything about that? Tell me what you saw.
I saw the whole thing and I didn't do a thing.
What are your choices, son?
Why you hang with those lames?
If you speak up,
Some things meant to be kept quiet, you feel me?
chances are you'll be putting your mother and yourself in harm's way. But if you keep quiet,
Snitches get stitches and wind up in ditches.
you might be left alone.
If we ain't friends,
Maybe,
then you know what it is.
maybe not.
Producer of Troop 491, The Muddy Lions, Raheem.
Hello, everybody. As I said, my name is Praheem, and I am a filmmaker from Richmond, Virginia. This movie was shot in Richmond back in 2012, and I know a lot of people ask, why did I make this movie? What is my involvement with scouting? I actually was a Boy Scout from the age of 7 to 15, but when I graduated from film school, I went to Howard University for my undergraduate in film, and I went to Florida State University for my master's in film production. And when I graduated, I returned back home to Richmond, Virginia, and I was just really eager to make a movie. I had been studying for about 15 years, learning the craft. Now I wanted to put it to test. And so I had a kind of an R-rated high school movie that my friend didn't really like his perception in it. He said, hey, you should do something, a more positive story about a group of kids that go to school together, they're in church together, and they're involved in scouting. And I just thought it was so fresh that, hey, I need to try to run with this. And so we just started kind of coming out with an outline, and it went from being a story about a bunch of kids earning merit badges and selling popcorn to really tackling some real serious issues that are facing our community, such as gun violence, peer pressure, the code of snitching, and just teaching kids to hopefully learn to make the right choices at an early age. And so what eventually evolved from the script became an opportunity to share with this generation some of the values that were instilled in me by my parents, by my community, and also my experiences with scouting. So from the age of 7 to 15, my life was really immersed in scouting. As you see right here, this is a picture of the real Troop 491. This is me right here. This is my father and my brother, who was supposed to be coming today, but he's probably running a little late. But the church really served as a village, and there we had our pastor, we had our scoutmaster, and a lot of parents. And so our scout parents were very active. I'm talking moms, dads, uncles, grandparents. And so if you were ever thinking about doing something silly, there was always an adult to look at you and tell you, no, that's not what you're going to do. And so scouting really occupied a lot of my free time, which was very much needed because during the time of scouting, during my time in scouting, Richmond was very violent. We ranked top 5 murder rate per capita. And for 10 straight years, we averaged 100 murders. And we hit a high of like 161 and 141. So scouting kept me away from the violence, and it gave me an opportunity to be around young, positive men and older, positive men, and I had the opportunity to watch a lot of them rise through the rank of Eagle Scout and go on to college. My brother's an Eagle Scout, my cousin's an Eagle Scout, and so it really taught me a lot about working hard for what you want and following through on what it is that you say you're going to do. And so we premiered this movie in 2013, and so far we've been traveling all over the country, showing it at different film festivals, we've shown it at churches, we'll show it at community centers, and we just really want to get the message out to young people. So right now we're working with the Boy Scouts, and we've held screenings at different councils, and each council, as you hear from them, they're actually going to talk about exactly what they've done to ingrain the Muddy Lions into their communities. But it really just gives the young kids an opportunity to see themselves as scouts and actually see this, hey, this organization can be for me and it can help me in the long run. And so that is pretty much the gist of why I made the film, and what my hopes are is that these young kids will view themselves in a different light and hopefully think differently before they react to be violent towards one another, and hopefully we can have less young black men in the ground and more of them involved in scouting. And so that's all I have.
We have a few minutes for questions if you have for him. I'll start it off by asking, how was this movie funded? I mean, these things aren't cheap. How were you able to implement this?
The funding came from my father. I went around and I reached out to a lot of investors, family, friends, doctors, people who I knew had disposable income. I took them out for dinner, and resounding no's all across the board. But that's usually what happens when you're asking for like large chunks of money and you have no experience of making a movie and then making money on it. And so I kind of was moping around the house trying to figure out where am I going to get this money. I really want to make this movie. And my dad, he said, I'll give you the money. And so he invested $200,000, and I put up some of my own personal money, credit cards, and then we received a grant from the governor. And then also what really helped make this movie was a lot of in-kind donations. We reached out to the Heart of Virginia Council and explained what we were doing. And they contacted local troops who then were able to donate uniforms. We reached out to the real Troop 491. They allowed us to use their camping equipment and a lot of their resources, where if we would have had to pay for all of these things, it probably would have opened the budget up a lot more. And so we really relied on the community support. So if you happen to watch the movie and you notice when the credits roll will roll for almost 10, 15 minutes because there were so many people who donated their time. And I said, hey, if you come out and help, we can't pay you, but I can feed you and I can put your name in the credits. And so we really relied on a lot of community support.
I don't know if we're going to be seeing the movie, but are the messages here and the techniques developed to support these kids applicable to Native American communities, Hispanic communities, where there's the same entrenched issues and problems?
Well, we've seen that this movie translates all color bound. So we've gone to like the Bay Area, and we've had a large quantity of Hispanics families come out, and they love the movie. We've held screenings for predominantly white audience, and they've loved the movie. I haven't really screened it for Native Americans yet, but I'm pretty sure that they could find something, because it's really not about race. It's more so just about being a young boy in need of guidance. And I think that is what can be related to everybody. It's really a rites of passage movie, and that is something that can cross cultural bounds, because everybody has a rites of passage. From boyhood to manhood, it's very difficult, and if you don't have the proper guidance, you're going to go off the wrong path. And so I think most cultures can relate to that.
So how do you get the movie mainstream?
That is what we're trying to figure out right now. We had a limited to release in Richmond, Virginia, which we lasted for about 5 weeks, and then we've been going around traveling the festival circuits, hoping that we will be able to get distribution from that. That hasn't panned out yet, but we're still working towards it. The movie is currently running on television on Up TV. If any of you all have Up TV, it's been running on there since, I want to say, April of last year, and will continue running until 2017. But generally speaking, you have to get distribution in order to get it into your traditional forms, which is theatrical, television, DVD, and digital and on demand. And so we're still trying to figure out a way to get it into those markets so that it can reach a larger audience.
What's the reception at the major film festivals? I mean, have it been accepted? I don't even know that process, but how do you get in? How do you get accepted? And if not, why not?
Well, the festival process is quite complicated, and so there are certain standards and certain tiers to festivals. So when you think of big film festivals, you're thinking of Cannes, Sundance, Tribeca. Those are the huge film festivals that you're most likely going to be able to get distribution from. But they want you to be the very first place that the movie has ever been screened. And since we went and did a non-traditional way, and we already put it in theaters, that X'd us out for a lot of the bigger festivals. But we were able to, if you see this picture here, these are all the festivals that we went to. We've actually won 4 awards: Best Narrative at the Baltimore International Black Film Festival. We won Best Narrative at the Black Star Film Festival, Audience Choice Best Narrative, and then Best Youth Film. And so we've been doing our best to just keep the movie out and in front of people. And the festivals that we've gone to, unfortunately, they just don't have a lot of distribution options. And so we're still trying to figure that out. But we're hoping that we can get this film in the theaters this fall, so that we can maximize the students who are in high school, middle school, and usher them out, but also take advantage of the fact that this movie's been out for a while, and we don't want to lose the momentum that it's building up.
At what point is it purchasable by Scouters or Netflix or someplace where?
Right now, it's purchasable. You can buy it from my website, which is troop491-movie.com. They are $15 on the website, but however, we will have DVDs after this on sale at $10, and you get a free poster. And then this package that the Boy Scouts are sending out, it actually includes a DVD. So you guys, everybody who's in here will have it.
inside it? And how is the Boy Scout sending this out?
We're going to talk about that in just a moment.
Okay.
Any other questions for him? Yes. Go ahead.
Is there anybody in the movie who is actually in the troop?
No. The star of the movie, this young man, was a Boy Scout at one point of his life. I don't believe he's active with the Scouts anymore, but at one point of his life, he was a Boy Scout.
How did you find your actress?
We had a large casting call. We sent notices up to like DC and Baltimore, and as far down as North Carolina. And we had 2 auditions, one in Richmond and then one at New Millennium Studios, which is owned by Tim and Daphne Reed. And we probably saw about 300 to 400 young people and old people, and we just had to make the best choice out of the options that we had. I think we got very lucky and found some really talented young kids.
Raheem, in the troop growing up, I mean, you obviously came from a pretty supportive family. How many of the troop members came from broken families or single parent families?
I'd say maybe it was like 50-50. Like me and my core group of friends, 2-parent households, but there was still, I guess, drastic income difference. So one of my friends lived behind the projects, but he had 2 parents. Another of my friends had a mom who was a partner at a law firm and a father who's a pastor. My father was a real estate broker, and my mom worked for the state. And so you have these different economic backgrounds, but when you go to school and you're in the Richmond public school system, you go to school with everybody. And so the troop has everybody. So you have some who have come from middle class backgrounds, and then you have those who come from relatively poor backgrounds. And so our troupe was a mix. And so you had kids who coming in who belonged to the church, and then you had the kids who coming out of the community, where the church is closely, is probably closer to the projects.
Well, you made the comment that the parents were very involved in the troupe. But I'm curious is like on some of the kids that didn't come from, two-parent families or from some of the more economically depressed families, were their parents also involved, or did your parents fill in?
Most of the time it was the available parents that filled in. So my dad would be there, my mom, and then we would probably have other people's parents, but if they only had a mom, most of the time their parents would just drop them off and then come and pick them up.
Okay.
Question in the back?
Raheem, I'm quite ignorant about this, and I don't know, but what TV stations do black youth?
Like right now, a lot of the youth, they're not even really watching TV. They're doing
Kind of what I'm thinking
Yeah, they're
too.
doing most of their stuff on social media. So if it's not on Vine, Twitter, or Instagram, it's really up to parents to kind of put them in front of a TV to make them watch it. But I know they watch a lot of BET.
The reason I'm asking this question is there a way to get in with that network for you to make some money, but also get it played on BET or whatever channels?
Well, we reached out to BET, but it's just a matter of whether they wanted to take the movie. And so when we reached out to the various different television channels, the only one that offered us an offer was Up TV. And so typically we can't like say, hey, we want to go with you. Will you let? So they didn't want us.
Okay, I've never heard of Up TV.
Okay.
So
This was
did I find it on
formerly-
DirecTV?
You can find it
I have
on
DirecTV.
It's on Direct,
Okay,
but it was
it's on-
formerly the Gospel Music Channel.
Okay.
And then so it was GMC, and then they've changed their entire brand, and they're now doing like uplifting television. And so it's actually based right here in Atlanta. And you just have to check. If you go to uptv.com and you type in your zip code, it'll tell you exactly where the channel is located.
Gotcha.
in your area.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, I would just offer you some support. Don't give up. Back in the 1980s, I think in 1981, there was the actor Gary Coleman, the little short guy, and he was in a movie called Scout's Honor, and it was on TV in about August, and it was about a little boy out in the woods who watched these Cub Scouts do their stuff, and he really wanted to be one real bad. And I don't remember the rest of the theme, but the gist of the story is that the year before I'd had 30 kids in my Cub pack. They showed it in August, and the next 3 years I had over 70. And it just was a summertime thing that everybody saw, and now I want to be a Cub Scout. So don't give up.
I'm not gonna give up.
We'll support you.
So with all the senior Eagle Scouts and Boy Scout connections, we got nobody in the entertainment media world that somebody can twist their arm and.
I would love to, I would love for that to happen.
Well, after the October meeting.
Yeah, I'm just not that guy who knows them. So.
Anyone who's got Oprah on their speed dial, just let us know.
Or Spielberg, or anybody. I mean, because really all we need is access to get it into the theaters, and then we can figure out things from that nature. But unfortunately, theaters just don't work with independent filmmakers. They try to only work with distributors because they're the ones who are traditionally feeding them content. And if they anger the distributors, then they may mess up some of their future deals with them in the future. So.
Later on in the presentation, you're going to hear some of the things, some of the concepts we're doing from a national perspective, which will include how do we have the movie pull audiences in rather than us push with the movie. So you're going to hear some of the concepts in a little bit.
Okay.
One more question. Yes, sir.
Good question. Two things. Have you looked at marketing to other youth groups who would have influence on the market you're looking at, number one? Other youth groups, whether it be in Rotary or whatever. And then the second question is, have you gone to the cable TV to get those of us who may be at the age that do watch cable through the channels that would appeal to like the grandparents of these kids? Have you gone that direction at all?
To be completely honest with you, when the movie was finished, Tim and Daphne Reed, they're producers, so they kind of had that experience with distribution, so they reached out with their agents and they put it out, and the only one that came back was the cable channel Up TV. And so it's like I don't have any agents, I don't have a publicist, I don't have a manager, so I don't have any ways to get connected to those people. But Mr. Reed's Resources brought back the Up TV contract, and that was pretty much the only people who were interested at the time. Now, that may change in the future. There may be other interested companies, but as of right now, that's all that I've been able to find.
We are looking actively to support him by trying to identify some contacts in industry. So there are things that are being done in support of this movie. This has been sort of a real wild ride the last 2 years as we identified the project. We started working with Brahim over the last couple of years, and as it's gotten more and more visibility, the energy level has been increasing to the point that I think we'll be addressing some of those questions as time goes by.
Does that also relate, did I hear you went to Ohio University?
I went to Howard University in Washington, D.C.
Sorry, okay,
That's okay.
Ohio, you know, I tune in on Ohio.
Yeah.
It's all about Ohio.
Okay, let's continue conversations about scouting with pastors in the community. That's what our strategy is. I'd like to talk about some of the materials that are available to councils. Obviously, the movie, you can obtain the movie, so why don't we jump to the resources that are available. There are two websites that have been put up, which I'll show you in just a minute. First is the public website, bsamuddylines.org, and it talks about the movie and it provides a lot of information to users and the public with regards to the movie. And then the bsamuddylines.org/councils provides access to all the materials that are available for all councils to purchase. So you can go out to the site and access the materials there. And speaking of the materials, there are a lot of materials that have been developed through national how-to outlines for councils and troops on how to show the movie, whether you're actually reaching to increase or recruiting into a particular unit, or whether you're actually trying to start new units and identify and encourage different organizations to bring on units. There are customizable letter templates, including the movie, introducing the movie to local, community, and faith-based leaders. So as you go in to talk to a leader, potentially about a Boy Scout troop, materials to assist you in working with them. There are Scout ministry information on how the movie itself can be used as part of your ministry, reaching into the community around you. Discussion guides to be used after the movie has been shown. Go to the next page. There's, again, in these packages that you have with you. Most of those materials are in these packages. Additionally, the DVD is also in the package, including an introductory message targeted to faith-based leaders by David Lattin, who is a former NBA and Harlem Globetrotter player, one of my fellow board members at Sam Houston Area Council, who relates very closely with that movie and has a very inspiring message to kick it off. And in addition to that, there are copies of tickets, so you can just print the tickets out. And additionally, posters. There are posters available. There's a poster in the package here that's available. So as you can see, there are a lot of materials available to support actually using these in your councils. Okay. Patches available also for part of the programs as you introduce them. So it's a unique approach. I think that's about it on this time.
What's the movie rated in terms of showing?
PG-13. So you're talking about Boy Scout age, probably not Cub Scout age.
Yeah.
Any other questions about resources? Because now I'd like to start introducing a few folks who've actually used it in their councils and have them tell their stories of how it's been used. First, I'd like to ask for Jim.
Excellent. I'll spend about 5 minutes speaking, then in another 5 minutes if you have any questions that you want to ask about our experience. Fort Pierce, Florida, you can look up on your phone right now, was voted on Monday the worst place to live in Florida.
Oh, wow.
No joke.
Congratulations. I didn't even know there was a bad place in Florida.
Well, I live in Palm Beach Gardens, where the council office is. I live in Palm Beach County, where you know of Palm Beach and that kind of thing. 2 counties north of there is Fort Pierce, is St. Lucie County. Now, mind you, you're right now, and it's voted so because in 2000, for the last, 10 years, it's been in the top 5, but in the last 2 years, it's been extremely intense. In 2013, after many shootings in Fort Pierce, somewhere around the month of September, I was called in. They had already had 240 shootings. Mind you, this is a community on the 20,000 people, and most of the shootings happened in a 8-block area called Avenue D. So it's like OK Corral. Now, I live in Palm Beach. Of course, you know Palm Beach It's just, for all you New Yorkers. You can take some back if you want to. It's a 6-borough New York, and it's basically controlled by New Yorkers and Bostonians. Okay, so it's everything you can think of in New York, but just southward, Palm Beaches and sand and things of that sort. A little bit different world north of there. It is the OK Corral, and community leaders for several years have had multiple shootings. Children getting shot in their cribs and things of that sort, and they'll come together. 800 people come together at the community center, and they're trying to find a way to actually solve this issue. Well, in 2013, it got really bad that a friend heard about the Boy Scouts of America and what we can do. Said, why don't you call this guy called Jeff Isaac? So I drive almost 2 hours north to Fort Pierce, and on the porch of a pizzeria, there was the state representative, the sheriff, both police chiefs, superintendent of education, county commissioner, the whole gamut of the leaders of that particular county. And they asked the question, we've tried after-school programs, we've tried every other specialty program you can think of, what can the Boy Scouts do? So, within 24 hours, I got back with them with a project. Real simple, really easy laid out. 3 items I want them to do. 1, they must find the adult leadership, regardless of where they might live, that are willing to be consistent in delivering the scouting program. Number 2, you must have a program that's completely different on the front end from the Boy Scouts. Because building popsicle sticks and tying knots is not going to happen. Now, mind you, a lot of you might have this in your particular backyard, but Fort Pierce and places like this is where kids are 10 years advanced streetwise than your kids in suburban areas. Yeah. You can take a kid from Palm Beach Gardens, where Venus and Serena Williams lives, and you can take a kid from Fort Pierce at the exact same age, and he's 10 years advanced. It's just like dealing with a child. You deal with a 14-year-old in Palm Beach Gardens, you might as well deal with a 24-year-old in Fort Pierce. They're just that much more advanced. They're very hard. They're very tough. They will scare you because they are aggressive. There's nothing meek and mild about them. They're young. They're my size, if not bigger. I'm 6'3" and 200 pounds. They're not threatened by me or police or anyone. So that's the world these kids live in. So when you bring people in front of them, they have to be positive and they have to be consistent. And you have to have a program that's going to involve something that they've never seen before. Right. Okay? So, did that, and approximately 1 week later, called me up. Jeff, why don't you come back up? We think we got the key. And immediately recruited 7 people. Immediately. And these 7 people, believe it or not, were police officers and firefighters. No one from the community. All the 18 scout leaders involved in our particular program, in this particular program, because we've been able to branch out to others, none of them have kids during the program. Not a one. And 98% of the adult leaders are African American. The police officers, firefighters, so forth and so on. Well, move fast forward on that. We wanted and find out how can we attract these kids in our most hard to serve area. The toughest junior high school in our council is in Fort Pierce on Avenue D. In that particular area, the principal reached out to the county commissioner and said, listen, we need to have something positive. He said, I made contact with Boy Scouts, come over here and let's see what we can do. He gave us an audience of some of the toughest kids I've been around in decades. Now, mind you, my last council, I was in Flint, Michigan. Okay?
Wow.
All right? I've never seen anything like it. It was no joke. So we looked to try to find out what in the Boy Scouts has a model that can actually work. Well, I've used things in Flint before. I've used things in Memphis and other places. None of that stuff is going to work here. We found Praheem and flew him down. Foundation flew him down and actually showed his movie. Mind you, you thought Denzel or some superstar showing up because we brought every single person involved in this project into that cafeteria. The police chief was there. The fire chief was there. Superintendent of education. Whole gamut. Everybody was there, and every single male in that school. So the auditorium was packed with over 300 people in it. He came up, showed the film, and I was blown away. Now, mind you, if you're faint of heart, this is not for you. This is real world. This is not Disney Boy Scout cut version of, you know, doing the pledge and saluting. None of that. That's not what this is about. This is changing lives. This changed lives. And we'll get to that in a few minutes. The kids and the filmmaking on this is something that I've never seen, not just in the Boy Scouts, but anywhere. It showed real world, actual things that actual kids, the way they talk, the words they use, and it's not very eloquent, I should tell you. It's real world. It's, you know, people getting shot, kids seeing people getting shot, police investigations, all of that stuff. That is real world stuff. This is not something that you're going to sit around and say, well, we wish they had a little bit more scouting or whatever. No, you don't want that, because you're not going to attract these kids with the way we live scouting. You have to completely reinvent yourself, and Farheen has done that in the movie. Since then, we have, we had approximately 53, 55 kids signed up with a waiting list of nearly 60. We couldn't take them all. There's just too many kids. We tried to make sure we had a ratio of 2 adults for every 10 kids. Just too many. But the kids we did select, the principal and the superintendent gave us full access to all their grades weekly and all their conduct weekly.
Wow.
The parents advocated all of that to us to make sure that we can have control. Now, mind you, you live in a world where a mom has, you know, several kids. She's 90% single parent mothers, and they're working. You know, when you have 2 or 3 kids, what's going to happen with this particular kid at this age? And when he's on the street at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night when she's at working. That's the real world. That's how, you know, the kids actually live. The word lion, yeah, this is not hurting cats. This is real lions. This is hurting real lions. These are no joke people. This kid you see right here, you can't really see him, but I'm 6'3". He's 6 feet tall. He is 13 years old. He is 230 pounds. There's 5 kids in this unit that have triple X scout shirts. They are no joke. It took us 6 months just to get them to look people in the eye and shake their hand. To actually have to hold a conversation. You're going to deal with the exact same thing in your community. You can't rush in there and it's like, well, here's a Boy Scout handbook. You need to read this and let's learn the Scout Oath of law tomorrow. Not going to happen. They're going to walk away from you. Right. You must find something they're attracted to. And what we did was if you come to Scout meetings, you participate in the community service projects. Now, mind you, these kids have never done anything for anyone else in their lives. Right now, they can't wait till the weekend comes because they know they're going to be out washing some dogs, they're going to pick up trash someplace. They're going to leave that 8-block area, which is basically a unwalled prison, to be honest with you. They're going to leave it, and they love leaving it every weekend. As long as they participate, they get seats to the Magic games, the Heat games, and the Dolphins games, any fair that comes in town. They spotlight on anything that the city has going on. They're doing flag ceremonies. These kids have done the Pledge of Allegiance, open session in Tallahassee at the State Senate. They've been to, this is in Washington, D.C. This is a childhood hero of mine, John Lewis. We're in his chamber. There's like 20 of us, scout leaders and the boys along with them, the scout masters, the fire battalion chief, and all these boys. And get a chance to meet John Lewis was like really, really big because they had to learn who John Lewis was. You know, the guy with the backpack. Well, that's that little guy right there with the backpack in front of the bridge in Selma. That's him. And they found out how big of a hero he is. So it was a big deal. We spent three days there. We got a chance to spend some time with the senators and representatives and congressmen, federal congressmen, United States congressmen, to talk about My Brother's Keepers and try to raise more money to have more of these programs expanded. The sheriff department gave them their own bus. You can't see this up close, but this bus is decked out. They got their own trailer, their own bus. They travel anywhere they want to. The county gave them their own island. So you know in Florida on the East Coast, there's a bunch of barrier islands, all the way to Maine. They have their own island. They carved it out. The state senator was there, the sheriff was there, the police chief was there, SWAT team, all those guys are now friends of these boys. Where they used to be running from the cops, these guys are friends of them. Now, mind you, the police and the sheriff and those guys are pretty smart. They understand this is community policing. Well, I'd rather work with these kids now or chase them later and lock them up later. Then you're going to have all these other problems you got to deal with long term. So that just makes sense. But they have their own island. Now, mind you, these kids live less than half a mile from the ocean.
Wow.
And don't know how to swim.
Never been to
Never been. So you get into that water, going across that water right there, they all put life vests on. Needless to say, they were petrified. You know what I mean? And when you see this, then you'll understand what you're actually dealing with. Kids who have never been exposed to virtually anything. So now they look across the water and say, well, that's our island. They got their campsites there, and only they can use that island. No one else can.
Wow.
It is their island. They use it, and they're there on the weekends, and they chill out on the weekend and do that thing. But it's pretty cool. With this, you now have a group of kids who now see very positive people around them all the time. The whole community, they love it. But look at their mentality. Grades, how improved. Facebook, moms love to post how well the kids are doing on Facebook with their grades and honor roll for the first time. Now, mind you, we take screenshots of that, and we use it in our publications and our council. It helps in fundraising, big time, I kid you not. Because now people see there's a return on investment, we're actually making something happen and changing lives. All in all, I'm going to tell you, and Lee was with us, Lee Shaw from the national office has been a huge friend of making a whole lot of things happen for us and move this thing forward. But he'll tell you, he was there, Lee was here, and he'll tell you that was a pretty big deal for us to be there. And last but not least, we changed a lot of things, even about the approach of how the kids look at their patrols. Their patrols are called Malcolm X, Mandela, Martin Luther King, and Zulu. The Hispanic kids are about to join with some new Latino leaders. We're adding Aztec, Inca, Maya, anything that has to do with their background, we're putting it in their patrol. T-shirts will have those things on it. It ties the heritage to the scouting. Parents love it. Kids get to learn a lot about it. But the sad truth of it is, a lot of kids don't even know what that means. Mandela had just died, and they had an asked Mandela Patrol. I did a visit up there, and I said, does anybody know what just happened? They had no clue. I said, did you know Mandela just died? Oh, really? I said, well, where's the Martin Luther King Patrol? And they were in the corner over there. I said, well, who's Martin Luther King? Oh, did he free the slaves? In your head, you're thinking, because you don't live in that world, that all black kids know these things. They don't. They do not. It takes scout leaders and it takes concerned people like you to teach these kids this. It really does. This stuff is not taught in school. You think it's taught in school? It's not.
It is not.
It's just not a factor. So it takes scout leaders like you, folks to actually be concerned, to actually look at a different way in approaching this situation and making it happen. Prahim, you've done, I've said it before, I've said it 1,000 times, you've done something for us that I've tried many, many years to try to pull off, and it's been extremely difficult. But you've done a great job, and thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Any of you when you miss a scout meeting with this gun on, ain't nobody gonna touch you. Not a soul. We've reduced the rate of gang leaders, of gang members joining by actually having kids interested in joining the Boy Scouts. They wear their scout uniform on Wednesday when they have the scout meeting. They're wearing their uniform to school every day. They wear it all day long to school. The only unit in that council that actually does that, scout troop wise.
So these are high school age too?
Oh no, this is junior high school. This is worse. This is 6, 7, 8. This is hormone raging. This is uncontrollable anger. Everything. Daddy not there. All that. That's what's going on there. But when you have that, because we have complete access to them, when they miss school or miss a scout meeting, the scout leaders, in uniform firefighters, can go to their home not as the police or a firefighter or some type of official, but as their scoutmaster. And that makes a big difference. Because they don't walk up and say, I'm Officer Jones, I'm Scoutmaster of Troop 772. Tyrone wasn't there today. Where is he? And they actually go find him. They actually go look. It's not like, oh, well, we missed him or whatever. No, they actually go find him. So we force the kids and the parents to understand, you gonna be a part of this? Yes, let's be a part of this. You wanna go on those trips? Yes, you must do community service. You must understand what scouting is all about. And now we're able to move that whole thing forward And no, nobody messes with them. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, if you're a gang leader, I forgot to tell you, the kids meet in a police precinct. The scout hut is inside the police precinct. Half of it is a police precinct. The chief gave us the other half. They have computers in there. They meet there in the lobby. So yeah, they're pretty safe.
How about the development of Cub Scouting?
Start this fall. We need Cub Scouting because Cub Scouting, without it, we don't have anyone to grow into the program. We now know how tough it was with the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. It's extremely hard. I mean, talk about saluting or saying a pledge and things of that sort. That's very difficult at that age. You need to start them in the 1st grade and grow them into the program. So this fall, as we go into our recruitment, we're starting Cub Pack in that particular area and other areas. This is only one unit, and we've been able to leapfrog into other hard-to-reach communities within our council.
Yes, sir. Since the program's a little unconventional, what does that mean in terms of advancement in the sense of moving up and accomplishing rank advancement?
Right.
Is it happening, or can they, or what?
Oh,
do
yeah,
they?
absolutely, absolutely. Now, let me tell you, it is a different world.
Yeah.
They went to summer camp for the first time last summer. So this dude here chased that guy right there at 2 o'clock in the morning because he said he was going to kill him. He accidentally, no, this is all about respect. They live in a world of respect. You don't brush up against me. You don't make fun of me. And he's massive now. He's a fat dude. He's a big dude. And the little fellows calling him fat, and they were chasing the parking lot at 2 o'clock in the morning. So myself and the committee chair had to drive up to camp and find out what's going on. The camp staff is petrified because they're not dealing with these little brown kids running around telling them they're going to kill each other. You know what I mean? And how are you going to stop a raging kid that big? I mean, you know, what you going to do? Call a SEAL team? I mean, you know, what do you do? So yes, they've done that. Going to summer camp this summer, they're looking forward to it. We got kids now who are going provisional for 3 weeks after their troop because they want to earn more merit badges and things of that sort. It takes time.
Yeah.
This is not overnight.
Yeah.
It takes time to get there.
Great story.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
I'm actually a New Yorker transplanted in St. Louis, Missouri, and we had a different experience and are nowhere near where Troop 772 of Fort Pierce is, but I'll just tell you a little bit of how we've worked with the Muddy Lions in St. Louis. Most of you probably can remember, and many of you probably watched on TV, we were actually, some of us, at a National Boy Scouts of America Top Hands meeting last August when Ferguson, Missouri exploded after the shooting death of Michael Brown. And then things got really ugly in November after the grand jury decision, and I'm sure a lot of you saw all of that played out on national television on CNN. And as tragic as those things are, we found an opportunity for scouting to really come to the forefront in the community. And as we've watched since then, following that in December, you saw in New York City and literally across the country, people are waking up to the issues confronted in urban areas, whether it's the income disparity, educational things, law enforcement, but we're finding that everybody is focused on changing things, and communities are receptive. You know, Jeff talked a little bit about how the people, the leaders he got, none of them were from Fort Pierce, but they all wanted to help. And we find the same thing, and following the troubles we had, we found a community that was very, very receptive and open to anything they could do to help their young people. And so one of our executives who covers the Ferguson area, and it's actually all of North St. Louis County, and when Jeff talks about violence, St. Louis has been one of the most violent major cities in the country the last several years, and I can tell you, similarly, it's all in one section of the city. And we found people, the community, so receptive to anything they could do to change the situation. One of our executives went around and actually got about 30-something people from 18 community organizations to come together to find out how scouting could help them. We had the Ferguson Youth Initiative, several other community organizations, church, police, fire, come together. And I gotta tell you all, Jeff led a group there were 6 total people, including all of the leaders from Troop 772 in Fort Pierce, came to Ferguson to help us and speak about their experience with Troop 491 Adventures of the Muddy Lions and what they're doing with Troop 772. They all came up, talked about their experience.
Chairman of the African American Committee and also a board member of the Sam Houston Area Council. Seeing the film, I could really relate to it because it reminded me of my troop and growing up and the rich tradition that 491 had. At the Sam Houston Area Council, our plan is to use Troop 491 as a tool for new membership recruitment, new unit development, and also we have an alignment, My Brother's Keeper initiative. Committee structures, the way that we have it set up, we have the relationships themselves, troop open house, red carpet.
The Sam Houston Area Council, Boy Scouts organization there, along with Ray, Alton, and Lionel, and Donnell Cooper, who's not here as well. And it's a plethora of individuals, board members and volunteers and staff, really understanding what it means to make a difference in scouting. So I know that you're proud of them, and we want you to know from Houston that we are absolutely proud of them. Our church is about 5 minutes from the headquarters there in Houston, so we're very familiar with what they're doing and what they want to do in the future. I want to thank Jeff for sharing as well his experiences along with what Ron just talked about. I am involved with this because I was recruited. I'm not a Boy Scout traditionally. I wish that I had been. But I've been working with youth for about 30 years. Let me just share this with you. Right now, the stats are 1 out of 3 African American males will spend time in prison. 70% of African American kids are born out of wedlock and live in single parent households. These are actual, real lives, real truths. The achievement gap is widening in America as it relates to African American and minority kids versus Anglo kids. When Ron talked about kids wanting to get out of their neighborhoods, you would understand that if you lived in a neighborhood where it's a food desert, where crime is the norm, and where helplessness and hopelessness stares you in the face every day. That's the crisis that we're in, and I could talk about that in greater detail, but there's a crisis. The good thing about crisis, though, is that crisis becomes the womb of creativity. The greatest visions that have ever changed the world have been visions that were birthed in the womb of crisis. We believe that this offers an opportunity for us to become our best because we see the crisis and understand it from the perspective of compassion. When I was recruited to talk about this concept of the Muddy Lions Troop 491, I was very intrigued by Praheem's movie and by the motives behind his movie. And the reason I was tapped is because I've been working with a group called Good Gang USA since 1994, when a 15-year-old kid was shot to death during a bad drug deal in the hood from a block away with a 30-06 with a rifle, a scope on it. And he was shot to death underneath a sign that we had hung that said, "Thou shalt not kill." And the news media contacted me at 2 in the morning and said, you might want to get to this scene. And it was just like a movie. Praheem, I drive up to the to the location on the corner, and they're lying on the ground underneath one of the signs is the body of this 15-year-old kid. And he shot during a bad drug deal. And the anomaly is that the person who shot him was a white male who was in the hood buying crack. That's the reality that these kids live in. And the 17-year-old brother could not understand that had they not been selling crack, his brother would not have been shot. They thought they were just doing good business, and a bad deal happened while doing good business. Because when you're trapped in poverty and you don't have a way out, it doesn't matter how you make money, you just have to make money to survive. That's the crisis, and that's the world that a lot of our youth are living in, and that's our reality. When they're talking about the Muddy Lions project, I saw an opportunity because what Boy Scouts has been challenged with is how do you make Boy Scouts relatable to this generation? How do you make programs, make communities reachable? And then how do you replicate programs that work? We've had some success in recruiting, but the strength of Boy Scouts, I think you really may underestimate what you could really do to change the course of a Ferguson and a Houston. You talk about a hot spot for crime. Houston has multiple inner cities. We're a 600 square mile city, and you can drive north, east, south, and west and get to the inner city in Houston in either direction. That's how mammoth our challenges really are. But we begin to talk about the movie and Troop 491, what the movie is about, and how it can be used as a vehicle. But beyond that, how could we really put together the programmatic structure so that once you inspire kids through a movie, you can now connect kids to a structure that begins to change the total world. I have a saying, and it is exposure expands expectations. Exposure expands expectations. What I see, I can be. And that's very, very important. So as we began talking about Good Gang and Boy Scouts, we came up with the idea of creating this troop, Good Gang Muddy Lions. Good Gang Muddy Lions. And to do it in such a way that the church becomes the vehicle through which we reach kids as opposed to what was formerly the case. You used to be able to reach kids for Boy Scouts in churches. You can't reach kids in Boy Scouts that are in churches now because most of these kids are not in churches. Right? So we have to use the church to reach those kids, which means that the church has to be able to embrace a new paradigm, and Boy Scouts becomes its evangelism tool through this Muddy Lions concept. It's really about making it relatable, because traditional Boy Scouts, as it was said earlier, if you walk into the neighborhood wearing a Boy Scout uniform, ask to get jumped on. Yeah. I mean, you're asking for a fight, okay? Until the image of who that Boy Scout is changed and what the uniform means. But beginning, you gotta make it cool. You gotta make it swag. You gotta make it hip. You gotta make it feel right. And kids don't follow programs, kids follow people. And that's what Raheem provides just in his own personality. So several things that I want to suggest to you that we're working on locally that we believe is scalable nationally. And I think this is a national program that's happening on a local basis. I think it would be a mistake for Boy Scouts to let this be a local program that we hope one day goes national. As Prime said, the shelf life of this is short-lived. This has to be a national vision that's being manifested on local levels, because this film has shelf life like every other movie has. He has shelf life. I'm learning I've got shelf life. I used to be the young preacher that did all the young, the youth revivals. I don't get calls to do youth revivals anymore because shelf life changes. But it's very, very important for us to understand the value of what we have in our hands and an opportunity. One is, if we do understand this from a national perspective, I'm connected right now to 3 different large national church faith-based organizations. I've already talked to the leaders of those organizations about Good Gang Muddy Lions. Imagine what would happen if we could connect churches in every city to councils in every city to launch Good Gang Muddy Lions troops in every city. and we're doing this simultaneously as opposed to one at a time, 2 or 3 a year. We can't get around the curve that way. But imagine what that would look like. All of a sudden, we're all speaking the same language, and we're replicating those programs that Jeff has started, as opposed to trying to send Jeff to 50 different cities and states. We've got that package in such a way that we could be impacting the nation in another 12 to 14 to 16 months. That is really that doable. So we got to understand that as a crisis, we have a cause, but then there has to be a campaign, and the campaign cause is a cause for commitment. That's really what this is about. Understanding the nature of the crisis, the magnitude of the crisis is not going away. It is not going away. We cannot continue to over-incarcerate to solve this problem. We are going to have to educate. We're going to have to bring those kids into our environments and show them something different in order to make this happen. The crisis is what it is. The cause should tug at all of our hearts. And if we understand the cause, then there's got to be a campaign to make the cause a real mission. And the concept of Good Gang Muddy Lions is a cool concept, it's a hip concept, and it sparks creativity. You can customize it. I love what they've done with the Martin Luther King and the Mandela and the Zulu tags on it, because it does make it relevant. You can do it with the Aztecs. I mean, it's really a nice, great package model, and I'm commending those who've been a part of that. But what can we do? I know what I can do. I can talk to those leaders of those church organizations and say, hey, here's another way to keep your church from dying, because right now churches are having a very difficult time reaching the same demographic. How do we do that? Let's put a Good Gang Muddy Lions Boy Scout troop on the ground, and let's go into the hood, into the projects like I go, and let's offer these kids an opportunity to connect, to come out of where they are to get something different and better. Connect that with the local council leadership, and you've got a winning team going on. I'm really excited about that. And then Prahim, finally, this is a jewel in disguise. I mean, it's really a powerful tool. The fact that he already has the film done, and the fact that he's gotten it done so low budget is incredible to me. It's miraculous. But what could we do with Boy Scouts with this film? If all 290 councils endorse this film, and you can see it for free because it's in the packet, if we all endorse that film and endorse this concept, what would that registration, what would that list look like going to a film distributor, going to a series of theaters? What would happen if you had that kind of momentum around it with the endorsements from everyone from the top to the bottom? I think that this film could and should be a feature film. We're talking right now to some people who are in that line of work who can help. They know the science of it, how to get that done. But then he needs to be rock star status. I mean, literally, because we follow people, not programs. Michael Jordan played what? Basketball. But he sells Hanes underwear. And he sells Hanes underwear not because he wears them, he probably doesn't, but because people follow people, not products and not programs. It's the personality behind it first. Little Bow Wow, Lil Wayne are the people that all of my kids know. You might not know who those people are. But I promise you, if we help our kids know who Prahim is, they will want his autograph. Prahim on a tour in those churches, in those schools, and in your cities, with the backing of the councils, all of a sudden you have a movement of young people connecting with Good Gang, Muddy Lions troops, and other things like it. And by this time next year, we'd have thousands of kids involved with the program. I'm a visionary, and I believe that vision is a divinely inspired portrait of possibility. And the greatest possibilities always come from the greatest problems. There is no David without a Goliath. Without a Goliath. There's no story unless he's a giant. And so I'm saying to us, we've got a giant-sized crisis, but thank God we've got giant-sized faith. And with people like those of us who are in this room, if we left here with these packets in our hands and our information exchange, and we decided that we're going to make this a #1 focus over the next 2 to 3 years for Boy Scouts, we are not going to continue to sit back and watch the news, to wait for another Ferguson, to wait for another Baltimore, to wait for another Houston. We are going to be the ones who come to the forefront and say, we have the answer. That's a bold statement to make in America. But right now, no one's saying that. No one's saying that. Everyone is saying, well, whose fault is it? I think we should say not whose fault is it, and forgive me for preaching, but that's what I am.